if you are a cyclist who has long been wondering whether or not should you get a bike fit, will a bike fit make me more powerful, is it right for me, then I think this video is speaking to you. So make sure to stay around till the end of the video to find out what I have to say. So let me just quickly go over the definition of a bike fit. So basically what bike fit means is that it's changing the setup of your bicycle, your contact point, so that it is set up in a way where mechanically it is the most efficient for you. Why do we need to do it? Well, because us humans, all of us individuals are different. Just because someone is the same height as us, same body weight as us, doesn't mean that the body proportions are the same with us. We might have longer legs compared to someone else, longer torso, things like that. Now in today's world, there are a few common ways to do a bike fit actually. So ranking all the way from the lowest, the most traditional and cheapest being they will use rulers to measure your angles on the bicycle, and of course the human eye, ranking all the way to more comprehensive systems like the Ratu system, where they place sensors on certain areas of your body part. And what that means is basically when you have sensors all over your body, they are able to record it and track it from a computer compared to just the human brain. So who should you be in order to be eligible for a bike fit? What are the criteria that you must hit? Now I think one of the very first few criteria and one of the very common ones when it comes to bike fitting is that you experience discomfort whenever you go out and ride. And when it comes to solving discomfort issues on a bicycle, how a bike fit can do it differently compared to a bicycle shop is that a bike fitter will be able to do it from a more holistic approach, right? A more overall approach. Because let's just take an example of a saddle discomfort. When you go into a bike shop and you tell them that you have a saddle discomfort, you are pretty much guaranteed one simple answer, and that is this saddle is not right for you, right? This saddle type is not for you because they're forcing you to change a new saddle. But sometimes just because you have a saddle discomfort doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from the saddle. And that is where a bike fit session is actually different from going to a bicycle shop, because when you do a bike fit, they will be able to diagnose whether or not the issue is actually coming from the saddle or coming from somewhere else. Because a common thing that happens with cyclists is that sometimes their saddle height, it could be off by a few millimeters. Maybe they put it in a bike bag, they travel overseas, and then when they set it up, it's a few millimeters off from where they actually should be, and that itself can be enough to cause saddle discomfort. It could also be that the way they are sitting on the saddle, the way that they are riding, and all this can eventually lead to saddle discomfort. And these are things that an experienced bike fitter with a trained eye, they will be able to see it and they'll be able to tell you, and then only you know, oh, saddle discomfort doesn't necessarily come from a bad saddle. And the second criteria is if you think that your bicycle is not set up in a way where it's mechanically efficient for you, maybe if you are an injured athlete, if you suffer some imbalances in your body, whether structural or functional, then I think a comprehensive bike fit at that point is the best solution for you. It's like the golden ticket to your problem. And so sometimes when we ride on a bicycle, some cyclists, without them knowing, they can actually ride in a position like this, right? They have one hand locked out and then one hand relaxed. And the thing is, they themselves might not necessarily be aware of it. It is until the bike fitter tells them that, hey, are you aware that you are doing this? One of your hand is straight and one of your hand is relaxed. Then only they realize that, oh, you know what? I'm actually not aware of it. And the solution to that can sometimes be quite complicated as well. It could be because that your shifters are not set up evenly. One might be lower or higher than the other. And it could also be because you have arm length discrepancy or arm length difference. And these are things that when you do a comprehensive bike fit, they will run through all sorts of mobility exercises, off the bike assessment in order to see whether or not you have these sort of issues. And it is more common than you actually think. If you suffer an injury before, then most likely you will see this quite commonly in injured athletes. And another example of this imbalance is, of course, leg length discrepancy or leg length difference. They might have one leg that is millimeters longer than the other leg, and because of that few millimeters, it's enough to cause them to sit crooked on the saddle. Essentially, the hips are not sitting level, and then one hip is slightly to the front and one hip is slightly to the back. So essentially, they're pedaling crooked as well. That itself can sometimes be enough to cause one-sided saddle pain. And so these are things that when you do a comprehensive bike fit, again, as I said, the bike fitter will be able to see and tell you, and then make solutions from there. Maybe they will start shimming your shoe, they will add spacers to your pedals, I don't know, maybe they will twist your saddle slightly crooked to align you back, I don't know. These are things that a professional bike fitter, an expert bike fitter, they know what to do. And so you can see when you do a comprehensive bike fit, the price that you are paying really is the expertise and really the attention to details. These are things that when you do a bike fit at home, DIY, you yourself can't really see these sort of things. But when you have fancy equipment like the rear tool system, saddle pressure mapping, these sort of things, then you can really go into the nitty-gritty and really go into the details of what is actually happening with your body. And so if you fit into any of these two categories and you do decide on eventually getting a bike fit, maybe after all this COVID madness, then I think here are a few things that you should look out for when it comes to what to expect and what you'll be getting out of that bike fit session. And I think first thing first, I think it's very important to understand the objective of the bike fit. Why are you going to get a bike fit? Because you have to discuss it with your bike fitter and make sure that both of you are on the same page before you start the actual bike fit session itself. Because I have been to bike fitters where the objective of my bike fit is to actually put me in a more aggressive position, so that I'm more efficient when it comes to racing fast. But then I don't think the bike fitter understands my objective, and then they start putting me in a position where an endurance cyclist or an Audex rider might adopt, and then it pretty much defeats the purpose of the bike fit. Because when I come out of the bike fit, I myself have to start changing things in order to make it suit what I actually need, and so it is a waste of time, waste of money, because all he's doing is he's doing a bike fit for himself, not for me, right? And the whole purpose of the bike fit is to actually suit me, not him. And so that is very important, and that is something that I think many of you should look out for. And secondly, when it comes to finding where to do your bike fit, I think it's very important to find someone who is professionally trained and actually an expert in doing a bike fit. Because in today's online world, right, you can find so much of information out there regarding on your bike fit. So essentially what it means is that you can actually do a bike fit DIY yourself at home. Record yourself on a trainer, put a mirror in front of you, and then basically you do your own bike fit. So when you outsource to someone else to find help, you got to make sure that they're actually really an expert, and the price that you are paying really is something worth it. The sensors, the saddle pressure mapping, these are things that you do not have at home, and only they have, only the comprehensive bike fitters, they have this sort of equipment. And so that is why if your budget allows and you are willing to spend a little bit more for the bike fit, then I would say by all means just go for the comprehensive bike fit. And if you would like any recommendation, I would say any bike fitter that has experience with retool, the rear tool system like VO2 Max in Bukit Jalil, they are quite good when it comes to doing this sort of comprehensive bike fit. And last but not least, number 3 is that the follow-up process of it. If for whatever reason during the actual bike fit session you are not able to get 100% of the things completed, maybe you need to change a certain saddle and then they don't have it in stock, maybe you need to change your handlebar width, you want to make sure that the follow-up process and the after service of it is actually good, because you don't want someone who just wants to quickly do the bike fit session and ask you to get out of their shop, right? You want to make sure that when you make the changes that they tell you to do, you can come back, let them see, and make sure it is 100% from top to bottom, right? And also few months down the line and few years down the line, if you do happen to decide on changing a new bike, what size should you get, what are your measurements like, you want to make sure you'll be able to get this sort of information from the bike fitter that you did the bike fit with. Because if you do the bike fit with a rear tool system, most likely they will be able to capture and store your data. So when you want to get a new bike, make sure you are able to retrieve those data from the bike fitter that you did it with. So those are just a few simple guidelines that you should look out for when it comes to doing a bike fit. And if you are someone who is still hesitating whether or not should you do a bike fit, I hope this video answers your question. Of course, you should definitely do a bike fit after all this COVID madness. If you are a Malaysian viewer, I hope you are staying safe in this. FMCO. I hope things do get better. So that is all I really have to share for this video. Remember to share it with a friend who you think might be hesitating on whether or not should they do a bike fit. The links to my Instagram and my TikTok are in the description below. Just created them recently, and remember to subscribe to this channel for more cycling related tips and tricks.